Hello, everyone. Welcome to our monthly seminar on religion, spirituality, and health. I'm so thrilled to be able to introduce Naji Abi Hashim to you. Naji has a whole lot of degrees, from an MDiv to a PhD to all sorts of different qualifications. He is a clinical and cultural psychologist. He's an author, visiting professor, consultant, public speaker, cross-cultural worker. He is Lebanese American who is involved in teaching, training, mentoring, and all sorts of other activities. And basically, he's just a nice guy, basically.
Thank you.
Knowledgeable, and you all have his bio sketch, so you could see that. I'm going to just go ahead and turn it over to Naji and let him take it away. Naji, go ahead.
Thank you very all. I hope you're doing well and your days. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Wonderful. So I'm saying thank you very much for this wonderful invitation, and it's a joy and honor to be with you all. And then hopefully we're doing well in this good world, but a troubled world as well. And that leads us to our topic today. Whatever happened to the concept of peace, notion of peace, energy of peace in this time and age? And now I will try to share the screen, right? Let me see, where shall I click for that? Participant, chat, react. Doesn't have any place to say click for sharing. Oh, share, here we are. Okay. I'm clicking on share, but nothing is happening.
Then you have to find the screen on your computer and click
Yes.
on that,
Okay,
your PowerPoint screen,
sure.
and then click OK.
All right, so I'll find I have it open, but I need to find the folder, I guess, the icon for so I'll go Duke, and then
Now
here
you
we
should just,
are.
if you have the PowerPoint open, you should be able to click on the screen and then just say OK. If the PowerPoint is open already on your desktop.
Yeah, it is open. It is open. Yeah, it
Okay.
is open, and let's see what will happen here.
Yeah, click share and then click the screen that's open and then
Right.
say OK.
Sure. It used to be easier for some reason. Today I had difficulty in
Yeah, this technology is crazy. I can
keep changing.
There it is. It's coming up. There it is.
All right.
Now, just make it a full screen and you'll be in good shape.
So you see the screen?
Yes, now make it a full screen. Go to the bottom and hit that little thing there at the bottom.
Yeah, sometimes it
There.
like this.
Yep. Hit that. They're perfect. Now,
Okay, good. Oops. I lost it. Stop sharing. Where it is here. Oh, I'm sorry, but I lost the screen, the sharing. Okay, we'll do it again.
do an escape, I think, and then you can do stop sharing and then start sharing
Okay.
again. Hit the screen. There you go.
Sure.
There you
Yes.
go.
Sure, sure, sure. I'm minimizing these here. Voila. So this is the topic for today. And voila, here we have. Good. And these are the places I was able to present former version of that topic because it's very timely and people are really interested in it. And this is my contact information. And then kind of a little abstract in this presentation, we're going to explore the philosophical and social, cultural, psychological, spiritual meanings and roles of peace, its common use and misuse, including the psychology of war and peace, the irreversible impact of globalization, the significant rise of polarization, and the root causes of fundamentalism and radicalism. All are features of our common world now, along with the implications, some implications for us educators, clinicians, peacemakers in the world. To start, I've gathered several terms of peace in different languages, and that helps us to have a different horizon or worldview when we use different languages to hear the same topic that is close to our heart. Of course, peace, paix in French, salam in Arabic, frieden, and then paix in Basque, pace in Italian, Bashkir Asian, Shanti Indian,
Naji,
and then, yes, sir.
I don't think your slides are progressing. We're not seeing your slides going forward. We just see your first slide.
Okay. This is the abstract. I'm moving. Can you see? Can you?
No, we
Okay,
can.
so let me minimize the I think if I can minimize the screen, maybe that will help.
Can you try just going forward one slide?
Sure. I'm moving forward.
Okay,
Nothing
good.
happened?
No, we're still stuck on your screen. Your first
Yes, yes,
slide.
yes. Now,
You can use the arrows to next on your keyboard too. You can
this
just,
is what, yeah, this is what I'm doing.
but the
So
slides,
now,
okay.
are they moving?
No,
No, okay. I think if I can minimize the screen, keep it as it was. It sometimes is helpful. The screen, okay. Let's see. Here, it's moving.
no.
Nothing moving. Okay. So let me end and then try to do it like this.
Okay, now that
Yeah,
something else. Yeah,
yeah,
there.
yeah. This is why I don't like the full screen. So I make it this way because for some reason. Okay, now we're in operation.
Good, good.
Thank you for your patience.
Absolutely.
Good. So I was saying that I've collected so many terms of peace in different languages. I was reciting some of them. And then Amani, Salama in Swahili, right? And then Frieden in German, Pace and Paxi, Verde. So that gives us a flavor of what people talk about calm, accord, settlement, tranquility. So the term and concept of peace has many names and labels and ideas. As much as there are interpretations of peace and assumptions and expectations, as well as different applications. So peace, my friends, is similar to other deep concepts and high virtues that always are unfolding in progress like maturity, like resiliency, like spirituality. So peace is an ongoing process. It is a developmental stage, an exuberant phenomena, not a single event, not a fixed measure or one-time result or concrete outcome. Rather, it is a journey, not a destination. It's a fluid concept with soft demeanor and dynamism. It doesn't have a screaming voice or loud presence because it's soft. It's invisible but powerful. It's a virtue and energy. It's not rigid, static, or frozen in time. It's not confined to certain geography or ideology. It doesn't belong to one mentality or particular doctrine or powerful civilization in history, but rather peace transcends time, culture, and space. Now, it draws from a combination of internal psychological faculties and spiritual qualities, from external social mediators and cultural energies. Nicely, peace promotes stability and accord and integrates naturally the individual welfare with the community well-being. So historically, people used to enter relationships in traditional culture to assume a social role rather than meet personal need, like leadership or entering marriage or apprenticeship or trades. So their first goal is the responsibility to serve the family and the clan and the community and play a good role as a noble duty, like instead of me, myself, and I and mine, it's we, us together, and what is the welfare for others. So meeting personal prestige and achieving personal comes later. So many traditional cultures and warm culture maintaining group harmony by respecting the elders, increasing the nurture of the extended family, comfort within the tribe as a psychological community are still high social values in many places around the world. However, when conceptualizing peace, most people rely on their own background, back experiences, cultural heritage, social norms, philosophical preferences, religious values, education, and worldview. Now, these factors can certainly be inviting and uniting. However, because each background and different view, these can be dividing and alienating because, you know, they have inherent differential power. So there is no one classical perspective or singular version of peace. And I've been around the world so many times. I've been in wars and in tranquility, and I've seen a lot of versions of those. There is no agreed upon definition or of peace or strategy how to implement peace. There is no standard criteria how to introduce peace to the masses, or one formula or equation how to initiate it, or recipe how to institute it, both as an agency and as a concept, with all its elements and vibrancies and remedies. That's perhaps due to the rich variation of the peace as phenomena. Therefore, the hard task of formulating one unified definition or function can cause people either to generalize, yeah, peace is vague, everything is peaceful, or to become restricted, limited, legalized, peace, very narrow in a small box, to apply it in a fanatic manners or militant ways. Whether you agree on this version of peace or you're not my friend, and imposing my own version of peace, using maybe power and money and prestige. So basically, peace is not an intellectual property or academic abstract, but rather an experiential energy, a potential force for communal stability, internal harmony, and within the psychological person and then within the society. like a healthy tribes, hopefully using the generational wisdom. So peace is both a simple and complex phenomenon. In our quest for peace, we seek it differently, like pragmatically. We experience it differently in a mosaic way, and we express it differently. So as we anticipate to plan and design peace, build and implement it, execute it, apply it, there are so many versions and ways depending on the individual and the group and the nation as well. That is similar to how people handle the concept of truth or the notion of reality. Some think they have arrived to the full measure of truth and now possess purest form of truth. I call those the quest for purism, the tendency toward purist. And that makes someone very skewed at the end. Other people think they got totally handle of reality and have all the complete version of human nature and existence. So we have to be careful. Though there are some silver lining and golden thread to the phenomena of peace across time and space and culture, due to its similarity and universality of the human nature, and the repetition of the patterns in history, however, there remains plenty of complications and complexity about genuine pursuit of peace. All of these increasing the polarities in our world. On one hand, there is partnerships and collaborations, but on the other hand, disharmony, dissonance, and attacks and aggression. Now, there are some discrepancies within the peace movements themselves in the world. So, in our hope to draw on the solidarity and camaraderie of our human passion and goodwill, instead of drawing on our divisions, disruptions, discrepancies, disparities, and differential irregularities. So together, hopefully, we can and will be able to redeem and heal the past with all its painful wounds, enjoy and empower the present with all its possibilities, and expand and brighten the future with all its promises. Virtually, peace is a fluid construct, a progressive progress, a cherished value, and a desired outcome, like a golden thread or gentle glue that holds things together. So what is peaceful and peaceable is not rigid or linear or boxed in, but a comprehensive theme that is larger than life, bigger than the imagination itself, and essential for the good life. Therefore, it is as sacred as life itself. So let's think a little bit about the historical meaning and perspective. Ancient Greek and the philosophical meaning of peace, they use the term irene. In ancient Hebrew and biblical times, the meaning of peace, the word of peace is shalom. So the concept of peace is very old, not new, very precious, very deep, very rich. Mainly portrays a state of well-being and equilibrium on personal, familial, communal, social, and national levels. It's very broad. However, it does not imply the total absence of strife, conflicts, challenges, hardships, adversity, even wars, but portrays on the inner, intra calm, on the confidence in spite of the outer circumstances. Historically, the virtue of peace is portrayed as a major transcendence over and above the tendencies, the human tendencies for control, for greed, for instincts, for negative drives, like anger and aggression and control and so forth. So originally, the concept of shalom in Hebrew, irene in Greek, pacem in Latin, paix in French, salaam in Arabic, frieden in German, all implied a state of holistic life a full blessing, a healthy functioning, a tranquility of mind, of heart, of soul, of body, and of community, a complete welfare and well-being. Ancient traditions held the notion of peace in high regards, assigning to it a philosophical meaning and a spiritual role. The Greek and biblical times, peace was an ultimate virtue to acquire and a golden value to practice. Beyond that, in modern times, peace has been encouraged by international bodies like the United Nations to be implemented on the global stage as a mandate for conducting sound governmental affairs and sensible protocol for mutual respect and healthy international relations. But the United Nations is in trouble and not too many people listen to it. Well, there are many facets of true settlement, healthy integration, and tranquil existence. So the deep nature of peace is multidimensional. It is philosophical, existential, social, psychological, political, professional, tribal, communal. It is spiritual, it is theological. So the state of peaceful person or group or nation can be actually achieved and maintained when using all the possible resources and mediators and common sense. This has been proven and established in the past on many fronts and can be possible in the future. Now, let me say that some countries and civilization were wired to be war-minded and violent and conquering and aggressive. But some others were wired and established to be non-violent and peaceful. For example, not all civilizations were violent or conquering or armed, war-minded. Take, for example, small countries this time, like Switzerland was neutral. My ancestors in Lebanese were the Phoenicians. They never created an empire. Their civilization was city-states, but they focused on innovation, industrious, traveling, building the first ship, the first alphabet, and so forth. But they were conquered easily because they didn't have an empire and army. So now the movement of pacifism was pioneered by many assemblies throughout the years as a solid commitment to nonviolence, as an opposition to all types of attacks or degrees of assaults using armed and bombs and quickly resorting to lethal force to resolve problem. It is a dedicated movement, advancement of affordable solutions, looking for solutions for cross-cultural negotiation, conflict management, anger management, mediations and negotiation, etc., to all human problems. Therefore, pacifism totally rejects the argument that we should rely on waging a destructive war in order to establish a good, reasonable level of sustainable peace. Now, let's consider some psychological and philosophical educational perspective. What are some good and sound approaches to the philosophy and psychology of peace? Well, there is a new movement now, even within the American Psychological Association, for peace psychology. There is a whole division 48 of peace and conflict and peace psychology. And there is a journal for that. It is a relatively new field and specialty in social sciences, yet flourishing because of the needs around the world and the eagerness of multitude of people everywhere to move away from the hostile competition and volatile aggression and ego inflations and armed confrontations. A recurrent theme among peace psychologists, and I'm quoting here, has been that war is built, not born. And the related idea that war is socio-biologically possible, but not inevitable. So there are some peace psychologists, they call themselves that. There are courses now, there are master's degree, you can do PhD in peace studies. So peace psychology holds that violence can be direct or indirect. In the direct violence is supported by military doctrine of justified wars and does inflict injuries and destructions and killing others in dramatic way. Indirect violence, which is more widespread and prominent, is called also structural violence, reaches far more people by depriving them the basic necessity of life, like good water, food, medicine, resources. So peace education is great, be it formal or informal. Life experience as insightful wisdom shape the mind and soul of young people and future generation to challenge the doctrines of war that has no ceiling, no end, by using modeling, using mentorship to influence the healthy development of character formation. And that leads us to visit a little bit globalization. This is one of the most powerful forces that had shaped our century and still shaping our present age and the human condition. It has roots in the Industrial Revolution, which introduced innovations for modern technology and began the strong emphasis on single personhood and the potential of the individuality. Some of the benefits, if I ask you what are some of the benefits of the globalization, you may list some of those, right? Easy travels, transportation, mixing of ideas, and fast communication, mutual discoveries, exchange of resources and skills, interfaith dialogues, sharing knowledge, bringing countries, people together, creating global citizenship, etc. But if I ask you what are some of disadvantages and downfalls of globalization, what would you say? If we have time, I'd like to hear your opinion and points. Maybe you have some to share a little later. Well, one of them is confusion of norms. Another is cultural invasion. Another is social inflammation due to the global economy and global markets and big corporations swallowing the small one and using cheap labor, etc. And also the development, fast moving of cyberspace and digital world, and now artificial intelligence, and who knows where we're going to end up before any regulation or ethical values norm to control these things. And also globalization has introduced materialism and secularism and relativism and consumerism and spread more individualism against collectivism. And this is why some countries and some traditional culture are resisting. And some groups, when they are resisting and overreacting, they create another polarity and another camp and another groups that become radical and militant even, like ISIS, which was an overreaction to moderate Muslims. And they call moderate Muslims infidel events. So there is a new movement has been created as a counter to globalization. I've been doing some research on it, and there's some references at the end called deglobalization or deglobalism, which is kind of a new overreaction to the globalized version of life and of peace as well, which became globalized. So peace is a multifaceted construct on both the micro and the macro, the individual and the collective level. So most non-violent civilizations, non-aggressive societies or nations, and most mainstream religious tradition considered the idea of peace as sacred doctrine. Yes. And considered the pursuit of peace as a supreme virtue, and the successful negotiation for peace as a mastery of skills and talents. And we're losing a lot of skills these days. So the non-violent minds to the non-violent, the implementation of good accord and peaceful living is the ultimate goal of existence. So this is little tiny, so I'll go through it fast. The organic connection between the movement of peace and the convention that is political philosophy and international laws and basic ethics and morality should be very strong connection. There is a moral obligation for people who live together in the same house or the same village, and for those who live near each other, across the street or across the world, to coexist in some form or shape of a mutual respect, civil order, decent harmony. Better if they can show camaraderie, solidarity, friendship, neighborhood, collaboration as a basic guidelines to relate to each other. But since friendship and solidarity and good neighbors is not always possible, at least on the hypothetical level, let's expect at least some lack of dispute and minimum level of openness for communication and courtesy, rather than fighting and being against each other. Because not all neighbors are friends, but not all neighbors are enemies. So some groups, parties, governments, label other groups or parties or nations negatively and hatefully because they need an enemy or because they don't conform to their own version of life and values. And so just for disagreeing with them or not serving their interest. Therefore, one group may reject all proposal for discussion or negotiation. So the other group starts attacking it and dehumanizing and demonizing for refusing to accept their own preconceived ideas or conditions for agreement or settlement, or because they don't follow their own value system or act like they act and look what they look. So it's easy for the powerful to impose their condition for coexistence on others. Now, the human tendency to be overly dedicated to one cause, overcommitted, zealous to a passion, can lead to extreme attitudes and behavior. And we can see that when there is a sense of threat, people go back to their own roots and tradition and hold on to those and become protective. So when such dedication is coupled by the presence of black and white mentality, linear thinking, lack of exposure to other worldviews and cultures, narrow perspective, opinionated mind, rigid personality, mechanical operation, and inability to tolerate ambiguity, that's a big one. So easily people start to gravitate around extremes and polarities. And if there is indoctrination by a charismatic leader, that makes things worse. Thus, the new movements and trends of fundamentalism, legalism, extremism, and radicalism. In Arabic, التعصب, التطرف, التشدد, والأصولية. It's important to notice here that fundamentalism and extremism are not only found in religious circle or among faith groups. No, they are prevalent in all aspects of society and spheres of life. Politics, education, psychology, medicine, business, military, sports, a lot of violence and attacks during sports events and radicalism, and even leadership and marketing, social movements. So there is a strong human tendency for us all to become caught up in our life passion, in mental focus or tunnel vision, so easily we edge toward very skewed, legalistic, even fanatic position. So we have to be careful, because no one is immune. And that's a common characteristic of the human brain. They like to go skewed one way or another. For example, they become claiming that my way is the best way, and my idea is the best. My belief, my value, research, my theory, method, results, interpretation, my hermeneutics, my approach, my clinical therapy, political view, religious faith, justice, solution, worldview is better than yours, or more effective and authentic than yours. Or worse, my way is the only way, and there is no other way that should exist. So with time and exclusive environment and indoctrination, superiority, sneaks in, and obviously can lead anyone or any group or any nation to higher level of extreme positions and radical attitudes, either by cutting themselves off the different others or by imposing themselves on others. So that leads us to consider the present dialogues and format for truth or for peaceable living. It's becoming quite conditional if you see the major wars around the globe today, if you see it in history. It's reducible to a narrow margin and social schism. On a global stage, the psychology of us versus them has become so prevalent in the policy making, and rule and divide. And the message here, underlying message, unless you fully agree with me or us, unless you see things like me or us, unless you believe and behave like me or us, then we can't have anything in common. We can't have a relationship, and we're totally different and belongs to totally different camps. And this is what we see even in North America, the polarities are becoming so deep. So some people and group, they need a psychological enemy to feel good about themselves and worthy about their image and about their cause. So they project or create an enemy, real or perceived, in order to feel better and stronger about themselves, and then to justify their attack to them. And hate and aggression comes in very quickly. So there is a human principle and psychological fact that friendliness and kindness generate friendliness and kindness. Tolerance and gracefulness generate in return the same. By role modeling, interpersonal interaction, social behavior, all these can be learned, imitated, and reproduced. And that's true of negative attitudes and destructive behaviors, as they are contagious. So aggression generates more aggression. Hate generates more hate. Bullying, intimidating generates more bullying and intimidation. And there is no end to the cycle. So on a communal national level, once attacks begin killing, blood and tragedies get involved between groups or ethnic or racial or countries or neighborhoods, then truth and recovery and accord and peaceful living will take long generation to happen and then take place. Not easy. It's not when you stop bombing, things get nice and friendly and cozy again. No. Lebanon has been the stage for other people wars and divided Lebanon. And once there is a blood, it takes like 4 generations to start building the country again, and people live together and then deal with each other without these memories. And there is another principle that a mistreated person at times, or abused individual or group or people, tend to mistreat or abuse others in the same way, sometimes unfortunately, and history repeats itself. So what happened to the concept of peace in this political polarity, religious ideology, and socio-cultural radicality? Well, like many aspects of societies and life in general, this concept is becoming mixed up, confused, unfortunately, manipulated by so many groups and political and militias and armies and governments and personal drives. Or it became custom tailored to fit each setting or mood or agenda. It's become altered and split, exaggerated or divided, distorted or fragmented, misdiagnosed or overly diagnosed, sometimes silenced, sometimes converted to private purposes, overly used, misused, and abused, certainly polarized and pathologized. So peace seemed to have lost its authenticity and then been itself lost in the ulterior motives and conflicting agenda. However, there are still some good people with goodwill, sincere and unbiased groups around the world who are diligently working toward genuine peacemaking and understanding and moving against the tide in the world of geopolitics. So, waging wars is easier than waging peace. Violent conflict are far more costly and damaging, and then take a lot of time to recover from them. So apparently, armed conflicts can solve one or two immediate problems, but will create a host of other problems for years to come. So waging peace is more difficult, yet affordable, less costly, takes time, it needs patience. To build the bridges and facilitate negotiation, and then do all the favorable outcomes and results. Many world powers who possess big cash, big money, big egos, big gun, lack the patience and far distant vision. This is why sometimes they resort quickly to lethal force to resolve problems quickly. However, might does not make things right. So, when you meet polarization and radicalization, how can you conceptualize it? What can you do about it? Well, people in their attempt to preserve their tradition and heritage, because it's pressure, they become legalistic. They go to far end and become literal and uphold to the tenets of their tradition. Or this is why there are museums and archives and photo albums and so forth. But when this goes to an extreme, it becomes a problem, create legalism and fundamentalism. And they oppose any modernity, any progression, any secularization. And here create a polarity between traditionalism and modernism, see? So I've been thinking about, is there a developmental stages that move from a basic traditional, groups into a radical, militant, or even terrorist attitude and level? Do people move these stages across time or overnight? So traditionalism is due to holding to the tradition and history and background, which is good, but when it becomes extreme, it leads to legalism. And legalism, it's like rigid and forceful lists of do and don'ts, and leads to fundamentalism, and that leads into extremism, where indoctrination and people become, gathering around camps and denouncing others and want to convert them and then attack them. And that can lead to radical behavior, which allows attacks and aggression, verbally and any other means, which leads to militancy, which they can use force to attack others in good conscience. And that unfortunately can lead to a terrorist act of some sort. So moving from being traditional to being radical sometimes can flip quickly, sometimes take a long time, as moving one step at a time without knowing unconsciously. So legalism is manifested in locked of mind. The mind becomes locked and the brains cannot deal with the variety of options. Then only see two polarities, gravitate either around this extreme or that extreme. No moderation and no seasoning and no middle ground. This is another diagram I've been developing to see how these stages move from one level to another and increase. Of course, there is overlapping, but I'm still giving qualifications under each of these stages, hopefully to create a better model and diagram of all those. So now, as we're coming to close to the end, in your work as an educator, as a clinician, as a teacher, as a parent, as a caregiver, as a pastor, and as a helping professional, what can you do when you meet someone with signs of fanaticism and radicalism, extremism, and so forth? I would suggest first to look for skewed signs and behaviors and attitude. Be alert to these signs, small ones and red flags, and then start asking the person, where is this coming from? And how did you reach that attitude and then conclusion or place? What are you reading? Who are you listening to? And as you detect these early, the chance for reversal and recovery is greater. Late is difficult. So seek to understand the source and meaning and intention of these sentiments and statements. And then look for prior experiences. Maybe the person was, exposed to injustice and trauma, so jumped into this attitude. And then others may be the result of reading legalistic literature or joining a fanatic group or being indoctrinated under a teaching of a charismatic radical leader. So lead the person or group gradually and present other points of view and say, however, have you considered this? Have you considered that? Assign to them various readings or introduce them to different local groups or social media, social mixing, to better exposure to broader horizon and worldview and mindset. And then the process of reversing the gradual rapprochement from extremism to modernism takes time. And there are some programs, many places, like detoxification, that is called de-radicalization, like psychological rehabilitation for the militant minds. I mean, there are centers even in Saudi Arabia, in Indonesia, in South America, called de-radicalization centers. And then the intervention should include mobilizing different people, resources, and assign to them teachers, clergy, mentors, healthy programs, public lectures, etc., in the community at large. So as we promote a genuine, healthy peace in our clinical work and human service, let's continue to integrate peacemaking and healthy spirituality, balanced worldview on the intrapsychic level, interpersonal level, intercommunal level, intercultural level, and international level. I mean, you are a peacemaker as a professional. You can help with interfaith dialogue, interracial dialogue, intercultural dialogue, even in the department or interdisciplinary, because we need to take that role as seriously. Healthcare providers are involved in human service and peace advocacy, and we are peace ambassadors. So, like caregiving and caretaking, many medical professionals, they spend time abroad in impoverished areas, disaster, war, and famine, and tragedies. They do good work, good deed to help alleviate sickness and help serve the hurting, challenge the injustice, correct the dysfunction, show empathy and mercy, teach and train and be role model, and help the quality of life of other people. So yes, we can be peacemakers. It's a genuine desire for stability, integration, and tranquility, desire for contentment and well-being, surviving, striving, and flourishing in spite of the adversity. So that's a sign of resiliency and maturity, of mind and heart, and good morality, and building a good world that will be better for future generations. So hopefully, one day will come when the true meaning of peace and the goodwill become fragrant and bright and therapeutic, when peace and shalom will be freed from all confusion and corruption and dark labels, to be light for humanity and solidarity. Until then, let's keep working toward restoration, reconciliation, peacemaking, and we shall remain caregivers of healing and ambassadors of hope. And that role is essential, and together we can make a difference. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you well on your journey of serving others and serving the world. And here is a long list of bibliography and references for you to look at later on. And thank you very much for your attention. And back to you, Dr. Harold.
Naji, thank you for a very informative talk. And we have about 5 minutes for any questions that participants might have for you. So just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question to Naji or make your observation. Yes.
Yes. And I have plenty of time.
We have until 1 o'clock, so we have 5 minutes.
Sure. Whoa, that was a full feast, right?
That was a real feast, for sure.
I tell you,
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I was wondering why linear thinking is bad. I mean, I have a history of math. I taught math at the high school level for 40 years, and it seems that in math, linear thinking is very useful. Although we don't use the word linear, we use the word sequential. Okay.
Yes. Yes, I'm using that in a philosophical way. If you compare East mentality versus Western mentality, Far Eastern, they are global oriented. They have circular motion, circular thinking. For them, the whole is larger than the sum of the pieces. In the Far West, we are expert in tunnel vision, focus, slicing the pie, and focusing on details. Sometimes, and because of the super specialization, and because of everything has departments, and everything has marks, and even one small item in the supermarket, you have so many brands. So we lose that integration and the whole and the global, see? And too much linear thinking, only one straight line for the mind, which is larger than the brain, that can help with some black and white and rigidity, and then so much compulsivity, take us into some actually extreme box, because everything here, we need to be classification and boxes. Everything should be. So where is the glue that bring all together, you see? So that was my point when I'm talking about linear thinking versus circular thinking. And I must add that these contain a lot of my pure crystal conclusions for 50 years of observation and international living, and then travels and leading and listening and then thinking. So I really appreciate the opportunity to present some of them with you.
And there were many comments also in the chat thanking you for your emphasis on peace, which this world certainly desperately needs. Who would like to ask Naji a question?
I would like a copy of those.
You want a copy? Okay, I'll send them to you. I'll send you a copy of the chat. Any other questions for Naji? Here, we have about 2 minutes.
Or comment, and what did you relate most to, and then how you see yourself as a peacemaker now. Because we can be discouraged easily, but there is a lot of positive points and bright points.
Who is going to ask a question or make an observation? Okay, Elsie. Elsie is unmuted.
Yeah, I really appreciated the comment about listening to others, not just having your own opinion. And that's a learning that probably takes years and years for us in a way. But I just appreciated that you mentioned that you talked about that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yes, that's an example of humility.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, company chaplain.
Yes, that's called cultural humility as well.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
The company chaplain is unmuted.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Just a comment, and I can't remember, I should remember, but I don't remember who said this, but anything that brings you to peace is a prayer. So I just find it's so important to find peace for myself, and very much motivated by thoughts about how to create peace. So thank you very much for your presentation.
You're very welcome. And we can say a lot about the spirituality of peace, the theology of peace. And I didn't go too much there because I have so much material. But actually, all the theological schools and all the religious tradition attribute genuine peace to the deity, to the divine, to the supernatural, to God. And some of them, they call it the God of peace. May the God of peace grant you this and that. And in Lebanon, and then there is some warm culture, when grandmothers are giving blessings, and mothers, always they see Allah yuwaffaq, ma'a salami, Allah yakuma, God be with you, and safety accompany you, and the peace be on your ways, and blessings be in your life. So they mix the blessings with the desire for peace and safety together in a beautiful way. So, I mean, in France, and it's good to focus on higher spirituality and healthy spirituality and say, yes, we need faith, we need hope, and we need the peace. And hopefully we can make a difference in our circles. And I wish you very well now and then along the journey to come.
Thank you, Naji. And for everyone's interest, it just happens to be that August 26, if you go to, for Christians in the audience, if you go to the daily devotional, My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers, today, August 26th, talks about peace. So,
Ah,
yeah, I mean, it's
beautiful.
amazing coincidence. So, Naji,
Right.
thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. Thank you, everyone, for participating and for your questions and observations. We'll
Yes,
see you next
indeed.
month.
Yes, yes, indeed. Peace and blessings to all.